book, Grace and Grit, written by Tunde Ebidero, who has joined us. Great song.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering why the choice of that song.
Well, wife chose it,
but
she knows I love it. So
yeah.
it's a new song, and then I just fell in love with the song. I
love
like the rhythm, and I like the message as well.
So I like it. And the biggest message, we also find the message in that song in your book.
Yeah.
Because what Mike was just saying is, this one is beautiful. Ojoro New. Why should this one be more beautiful than this? Sure, you understand. Again, what Mike is indirectly telling us is grace.
Yeah.
It's simply grace. Okay? Now, you'll be reading for us.
Okay.
You're reading from Roman figure X. 10.
Okay.
Please, go ahead.
All right. Okay. Combining grace and grit creates a powerful force that leads to unstoppable success. Grace equips you with divine strength, while grit fuels your persistence and resilience. The Bible teaches that while we rely on God's grace, we also called to exert effort and demonstrate perseverance. As Paul noted, I press on forward towards the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Philippians chapter 3, verse 14. This pressing on is the essence of grit, complemented by the sustaining power of grace. In this book, I challenge the myth of que sera sera, the idea that whatever will be, showing it to be unbiblical. Instead, I advocate for a proactive stance where you understand your role in bringing God's promise to fruition. We delve into concept of existential grace, the grace needed for daily living and overcoming life's hurdles, as distinct from salvific grace, which pertain to salvation. In Grace and Grit, the dual dynamic catalyst for unstoppable success, we will biblically and scientifically and psychologically look at the depth of two powerful forces through detailed chapters, each designed to provide you with a comprehensive understanding and practical steps to implement them in your life. This book is not just a theoretical exploration, but a practical guide to living a life of purpose and achievement.
And it is the Classic FM book on review. Grace and Grit is the book that we're looking at, and Tunde Ebidero is the author. This book actually was published by Swift Sense Branding Limited, 2024. What you read takes us immediately to chapter 1. What is grace?
Yeah, well, the most common definition that we have, and simple definition, is grace is unmerited favor. But grace is divine enablement in the life of every individual. Divine enablement, divine auction, God's power. It's God's inhabiting us to be able to do things that ordinarily we may not have been able to do ourselves. In creation, God created us to be a co-worker with Him. The Bible says we are co-workman with Christ. God started the journey of the earth, and in 7 days he retired and handed over to us. For example, I always say God made the tree, but He knew that's not the end of the tree.
Yeah,
so he gave us, from tree we make a chair. True. So He gave us every resources that needed for us to produce the end results. So we are fulfilling God's assignment, completing His task of creation, and that's why He gave us a creative ability. Everybody has a creative ability. So that's what, but we then need Him, because we need to partner with Him to be able to carry out this job. And so that's what Grit does. Grit is partnership with divinity in order to achieve things on earth.
But then in this same passage, this chapter 1, you also say that grace is not static. What does that mean?
It's dynamic. And again, because grace is dynamic, and like we also said, grace is multidimensional. Okay, and so we spoke about the salvation grace, the grace for salvation is different from the existential grace. Okay, because why the salvation grace is there for us believers, we know that salvation grace is you don't do anything to earn it. You don't do it's unmerited favor. It's completely free. You are not going to do anything. You didn't do anything for Jesus. He had already died before you.
We didn't do anything to.
We didn't do anything to be saved. You didn't. Fantastic. So you didn't do anything to be born, to be created the way you are. You did nothing about it. So salvation is.
We didn't even do anything to choose the family that we found ourselves.
So salvific grace, which is another word for salvation, simply means that the grace that comes without you doing nothing. But that's another problem we have. People think that that's all there is to grace. No. There's also the existential grace. And that's your daily living. But you need to do something to get that. You need to activate that grace.
We'll come to those two types of grace, but in expounding grace in itself, there was a time in my church that my pastor anointed some leaders. And he said, and this was like 4 years ago, but I still remember what he said. He said that he wasn't looking for the perfect people to take those positions, but what he has are the available ones. Now, one of the problems that individuals generally we have is that there's something you put in here. I can't remember where it is, but you talked about some people who ordinarily you will not think that God will use to provide that grace to other people. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So my pastor said that these ones are the ones that are available to do the work. You know, but oftentimes here we are, we're not very deep in the Word of God, but we're also the first to criticize. My pastor knew, what did she buy? You know, why would the prostitute like Rahab? You talked about Rahab.
Yes.
Why of all people, why would he be a prostitute that would
Yes,
save? That he chose to save Israelites that were into Jericho. How do you explain all of that? Because some person is listening to us right now and is like, you know, why?
That's the supremacy of God, which nobody can explain. And it is prerogative.
Look at King David. You alluded to him also in your book.
Yeah, exactly. Paul.
Paul.
You mentioned Paul. You know. So you see, it's just that's what made God glory. He said, how did he put it? He said, "I love the one I know." I'm trying to remember the way he put it in the Bible.
He hates the one who.
Yeah, he loves the one he loves and he hates the one he. So it's his prerogative. Honestly, it's his prerogative. I was listening to somebody on something on social media yesterday, and someone was saying that that he disbelieved the Christian God, because how would God would tell someone to go and tell Israel to go and wipe out in the Bible the other race and tribe, the Jebusites and the likes and the sites that she doesn't believe that as God. But I said, well, that's why she's looking at God in her own eyes. She's assuming God is human like her.
True.
I am a manufacturer. I produce things. I am at liberty to choose to do whatever I like with what I make. Okay, so somebody who makes pot clay can decide to break it again and remold it and do it any way we like. True. It's by choice, and that's what makes him supreme. And he decides what he wants to do, and I don't think anybody can fault him for that. So he chooses whoever he chooses. But I believe God always also sees things in every individual before he makes these choices. It's not just automatic like that. He would have seen something in them, like the case of David. God saw David's heart for the people. David was a people lover. And he demonstrated that even while being a mere shepherd. He put out his life to save his sheep twice. He fought a lion and fought a bear. Yes. So God said, if this guy can do this for an animal, he will do better for human beings. And so I think that's one of the things God saw. For all of us, God will have seen something in us. Okay, that will say, okay, yeah, this person will be able to do my task and do it successfully. But
I know we've said this, we've touched on it in passing. I mean, Antonia, feel free to come in anytime you want. We said it in passing, but I need for us to just briefly dwell on it. The two types of grace. That's your chapter 2.
Yes.
You talked about the one that leads to salvation. You talked about the one that we must live on a daily basis. Can you quickly expand on that?
Okay. The Bible tells us that we are saved by grace through faith. And it's not by work. So that's the first kind of grace that I spoke about. And it's called salvation grace or salvific grace. Okay, that grace, you don't do anything to earn it. It's just the mercy of God. So we all got saved and we got born again, not by anything that we did. We don't become accepted to God by the works that we have done. No, it's just His prerogative. It's just His mercy and the blood of Jesus that redeemed us to do that. That is the foundation. That's the foundational base for grace. Then the other type of grace is existential grace. Now, existential grace is the grace we need for our daily, our mundane life, our daily, okay. Like you spoke about, you mentioned that we wake up in the morning. It's grace. Okay? You get to go out, you come back, it's grace. You get to do something and you do it successfully, it's grace. You have grace applying to our lives on a daily basis. But this other grace, the major difference between the two is this. The one does not require human effort. You are not to do anything about it. But the second one does require human effort. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 10, Paul spoke about, he said, I am what I am by
the grace of God.
Okay? He said, but yet not I.
For Christ.
But I labor. That's the key point there. I labor more than them all. He said, if not, the grace would have been in vain. Now, grace can be in vain. And a lot of time I've seen a lot of grace being in vain because we refuse to engage the grace with our human ability. We refuse to activate it. We refuse to work with it. You see, what prompted me to write this book was something that happened to me over 20 years ago. I was praying with a sister in my fellowship, believing God for her to get married and all that. And so one of the days we were both together in the fellowship, and we were worshiping and dancing. And for the first time, I just had this revelation, and I saw her dancing in white garment to the church, to the altar, being led to the altar, wearing her wedding gown. And I walked up to her and said, sister, this is what I saw. God said, I saw you dancing. He said, amen. And I said, well, I'm waiting on God. And when she said she's waiting on God, God spoke to me immediately. He said, she's not waiting on me. I am the one waiting on her.
Whoa.
And that thing blew my mind. And that day I realized that a lot of time when we say we're waiting on God, we may not be. God may be the one waiting for us to take a move. And then another time I read a book by Kenneth Higgins, and I quoted the title there. It's You Move First, Take the Move. And that book says that for every promises of God, it is required that we must take the first step.
Oh.
There is something required for us to do. And if we don't do that, that promises will not come to us. So, and this is why I wrote this book, because I see a lot of believers, Christians, trusting only on grace, sitting down on the fence, not doing anything. Saying they are waiting on God, they are waiting for grace, they are waiting for grace. And the grace is already there. The Bible says he has dealt to everyone a measure of grace. The moment we got born again, everybody has a measure of faith, and that faith leads to grace. So everybody has some level of grace that has been given to us at the beginning. But how do you grow it? You grow it by application. It is when you put your grace to work, and then it grows. When God said move, you move. Then he gives it. God said go 1,000 miles. You won't get grace to go that 1,000 miles until you take the first step.
The first step.
The moment you take the first step, the grace will be supplied, and then you'll be able to go. And where you now need grit is, then once you take your step, don't give up, because you may face some challenges again. So you need to be persistent, you need to be perseverant, you need to be dogged, you need to just keep pushing, putting your eyes on the goal until you get there. So basically, those are the two.
I'll bring in Tonya, but let me just quickly say something. Is it right for me to say that, the two different types of grace that you talked about, there's something I tell people sometimes, that God can do everything, but God will not do everything. So it's right.
Yes.
So which means the first grace is God can do everything.
Yes.
The second grace, however, is God won't do everything, because he has given you authority to also do your own part.
There's this popular quote by Bishop David Oleko. He said, any faith that makes God absolutely responsible for the outcome of your life is an irresponsible faith.
Wow.
Any faith that makes God absolutely responsible for the outcome of your life is an irresponsible faith. And we see a lot of people having this irresponsible faith and claiming they have faith. And that's why their faith is not producing anything.
All right. Tonya.
Yes, I'm doing straight on the existential grace. So I just want to bring the mind and the thoughts of people into the questions I'm asking. Now you've broken down, yes, this salvation grace, this is it. You do not need energy, you do not need your input, but this one, your active participation is in the extension one. So that means we can see grace. Can we see grace? Now I'm not looking at this, I'm looking at the extension grace.
Extension grace.
That we need every day. Can we see grace? Because the issue people are having now in the time that we find ourselves is they don't even believe they have, because we have to differentiate talents, the gifts you're bringing in, and the grace that we want to use to back up this grace. So can we see this essential grace? Can we see it too?
In other words, are you talking about the manifestation of it?
Yes,
Because
yes.
there's a part in the book where you also... Yeah, is that what you're saying?
No, you know,
Okay.
most times we want to feel something. We want to know this is what I need to get this. Now, why do we the salvation grace that we're not there when the grace, when Christ went for us and gave us this salvation free? That is grace. Now, this is the particular grace that we need to achieve our day, where we have to input strength. I will look at that grace more like it is strength. It's strength you put into the gift that God has given you. The strength that doesn't make you get tired. There's some strength that, because there's no grace, you're just using your natural mindset to do it. You get tired at some point. But this particular grace is a particular strength that, even though what you're looking for is not coming, there is a strength that you're applying that is pushing you. So what is that strength that I need to see to push me? E.g., for instance, I want to be a medical doctor, and I've been writing JAMB, and JAMB is jambing me. I'm not passing JAMB, first JAMB, second, because I know there are people like that are going through that. I'm not passing that. And then there's the grit. We grit apply before grace, because the grace, I'm not seeing the grace. How do I now want to put grit into? Please, I just really need
Okay. Let me answer you from this from this angle.
Please don't mind how I am so.
I think I can say I understand a little, not I'm not too sure. I can't say completely, but let me put it from this angle. Hopefully, maybe that's what you're saying. Okay. You can operate with grace and grief. Okay, but a lot of time people want to operate with grief alone, without grace.
Okay.
Now, grace is number one. Grace is also your purpose, whatever you are wired to do. In the world today, luckily, even unbelievers now understand the essence of purpose. Okay, there's this word there's this Japanese word, ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese word that talks about your purpose. In fact, it's a big culture in Japan. Okay, and they believe that everyone is on earth to do one thing outside you, not something that has to do with your own. No, something you are giving out, you are putting out there. So that's a purpose. And for me, whatever you're wired to do is also grace. It's grace, okay? But then, like I said earlier, you can sing. You're born with the ability to sing. You didn't put the ability there. You naturally got it. That's grace. Ability to sing is grace. You came with it, right? But then you also need to develop yourself. Probably you need to go to voice training school. You need to go to music school. You need to do one or two things to own your skills.
Yes, that's how I see. So that means grace can be seen.
Well, it's seeable.
Yes. I just want the viewers to know that
it's
grace
seeable
is
because
not abstract. It cannot just,
it produces results.
It produces results, so you can see.
You know, I see. In the Bible,
the word that Tony is looking for is palpable. Grace is palpable.
Okay.
Something that you feel to the point of almost touching it.
Yeah, I just feel that this other one is something you can see, because for you to make a move, this just finding your, just like he said, your purpose. Oh, this is what God has put in me. That is a gift for me. And so behind there's a power that backs that gift that is in me, that doesn't make me give up. So if I let go of that, then there is no reason.
You know, for everybody, I think I want to look at it from this way. For everybody that has succeeded in life and have gone out to make something, there is a propelling force that pushes them forward. Someone that is running, is running on the field. What is the propelling force? The end line, the goal. That's what is pushing it, or what we call the vision. Okay, the vision is what drives everybody. Your vision is the picture of your future, and then the moment you see your vision, there's something it bats in you. It's passion, and that's why grits. According to there's a lady that I quoted a lot, Dr. Angela Buckworth. She wrote a fantastic book on grit, and she defined grit as perseverance and passion, because grit means that you have a tenacity to push despite challenges, but then there's an inherent thing in you, the passion, there's a drive, there's a compelling force in you that is not allowing you to give up. Because most of the time, people who give up in life, they stop seeing the end, and that's why they give up. But once you continue to see the end, you will always persist and you keep moving forward. So I think if we're talking about the whether it is possible for us to see grace, it is, I'll say that, okay, it means that being able to see the end goal, being able to see your destination, being able to see where you're going, being able to see the finishing line, being able to see the cup, being able to see the blessing. Paul said that I pressed towards the mark that was set before me. So he kept pressing because he saw the mark, he's seen it. The talk of Jesus, he said, he who was for the grace,
the crowd that was set before
the crowd that was
him,
set
he
before him,
endured.
he endured. Okay, for the crowd that was sent before him, he endured. Jesus endured the cross, despite the shame, because the crown was already displayed. He had seen the crown, and so that propelled him. He saw what was at stake. He saw what was at the end of the tunnel. Even though the tunnel is dark and full of all manner of rubbish, he could see that, and that was what pushed him forward. So for every one of us too, I think that is a necessity. Once you can see the end, then you will realize that there's no stopping you.
That's just one thing
All
I
right.
just to know about that.
All right, there's another part I want to. There's a part in this particular chapter, I think the next chapter, where you talked about. I like to use two people that you used in the book. The first was King Solomon. At that point where God asked him, and he asked God for wisdom. What was that? I pray. Was that? I don't know. I don't want to-
I'll regard that as
That's
grace.
two.
Yeah.
He also talked. Now I'm talking about Solomon. Let's flip it and look at Daniel. Daniel was another person who also used knowledge, which is great. But for Solomon, what is that? For Daniel, because Daniel already has exhibited something that Solomon asked for. So, at what point, which is grace, which one is great?
Well, like I said, what Solomon was asking for, the grace, the ability, the divine ability to be able to lead the people aright. That's the essential grace. Yeah, that's it. In Daniel's case, Daniel prayed also to receive divine ability from God. But then the fact that Daniel was a studious person, okay, was a man, means that somebody who understood that I need God, but I also need grace. Okay, and that's what, because there's something I also talk about when it comes to grit. What you see, they say, how do you develop grit? There are two kind of mind. There's those with a fixed mind and those with a growth mind. The problem is people with fixed mind don't operate grit. For you to be a gritty person, you need to have a fluid mind, a growth mindset. Okay, and so growth mindset means ability to learn, ability to adapt, ability to improve, ability to change. But a fixed mindset is no. This is it's cast in stone. So there's no. This is me. I'm not changing. I can't really. If you are not changing, you can achieve anything.
Can I ask this? Where is the place of prayer in all of this? Can you pray for grace?
Yeah, you can pray for grace.
Can you pray for grace?
You can also pray for grit because grit is ability. You can also pray for grit. You know, in the book, there was a place I intertwined both of them.
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's a place you said multiplier something.
Yeah, there's a place I intertwined both of them that even though we're saying, okay, it's human ability, it's human gift, we still need God. We all pray for strength, don't we? Strength is simply human energy, it's physical energy. We also pray for strength. Okay, so God supplies that strength. Okay, so that's also one aspect that you can't really separate the two.
Okay.
They work hand in hand.
So can we differentiate favor from grace? Favor from grace.
I think for me, I see it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah. I see it's the same.
All right, in this, there's a part in your book.
And okay, sorry, before you go, and then please, I also want them to understand that grace does not only come from God, it also comes from others. But it would have been God orchestrating it. Okay, like I said, you want to start a business, and you need about $1 million to start a business. Okay? You need about $1 million to start a business, and somebody gives you $1 million. That's grace. That's grace.
That's God working, but through
somebody else.
Through somebody.
So that's
exactly
grace.
what my pastor says. My
So-
pastor will say, I've never seen God, but the God that I see are the human beings that He's been using to bless me.
Yes. A friend of mine was having challenge, and I went to God in prayer, and I said, Lord, this guy serves you. Why is he going through a lot? And God opened my eyes to see that. He said, I've sent a lot of people to him.
Whoa.
But he's not saying it. I said, and you are one of them. But rather, all the people I've sent to him, he sees them beneath him.
Oh, can you
So he
imagine?
can't, so he's not thinking that these are the kind of people that God will send to me. Don't forget that it was an house girl that told Naaman
Yeah.
Yes.
where to get his salvation.
True.
So his healing.
True.
And so a lot of times too, we also discard people who God has sent to us because we look at them as people who are beneath us.
True. I mean, and I've got a testimony to that, and I've shared this. I've been here for over a decade. And a few weeks ago, I needed to pick my wife at Lekki. So I just called on one of our drivers here. I said, look, can you go to Lekki? He said, Oga, I can't, yeah, I'm going to Lekki for some other thing. I said, okay, let me go. And there was this crazy thing about getting fuel. I said, okay, what do I do? Okay, let me quickly go and queue for fuel. And then he said, why do you want to queue for fuel? I said, but the queue is crazy. Let's go. Now you buy fuel in 5 minutes. I said, how? You know? And I told him to drive the car. I said, that I can drive. It doesn't matter as long as he sits beside me. I said, no, drive. You know, and then he drove. He drove straight to the front of the thing, and the security people there immediately saw his face. He now moved my car to a pump that was not selling at all. He parked the car there, went into the office, came out and sold the fuel himself. And he's not a staff of the place. So when we got back, I told my wife, I said, and this is somebody that I've been in this place for 10 years. We've been working together, and I didn't know that he had the potential
To do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because all this while, I kept seeing him as a driver.
Yeah.
You know? Now, in all of this, where is the place of humility and obedience? Because it's another part that you talked on in
Yeah.
your book.
One of the sources for grace is humility. It's mentioned in the book. Without humility, you can't give. He gives grace to the humble.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay? The milk will be guide. So he gives grace to the humble. You need humility before God. You also need humility before men, before others. A student that is not humble will not learn anything from his teacher.
True.
Okay? A servant or a staff that is not humble cannot grow in an organization. So humility is required in all facets of life. So it's just one source of grace.
Someone just said, I'm enjoying the discussion, that he's liking it. There's a chapter in your book where you asked, what is grit? Now, in that, there is an image of someone who's trying to climb, I don't know, maybe it's a mountain or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
There's an illustration.
Yeah.
What is grit?
Grit is the sustained application of effort. Sustained application of effort. It is tenacity. Grit is courage. It is strength of character. Grit is also combination of perseverance and also passion. I'm taking that from Dr. Angela. That's how she defined grit. For me, grit is an art of not giving up. It's an art of not giving up, which of course is tenacity. Grit is sticking to the goal until the end is achieved, no matter what. And so what I think we need more in this nation, in this continent and nation, is we need that grit more. I think we talk too much about grace.
Do you think, how do I ask this question without being callous? Do you think it's grit we need, or we need discipline? Because in that particular chapter in your book, you talked about discipline. Now, don't you think that we have grit, but we have lost grit because of indiscipline?
Well, grit is something you develop. It's not a natural gift that comes to everybody. It's something you have to develop. Right?
So it has to be deliberate.
Yes. It has to be a deliberate and conscious effort of yours to develop the ability to be gritty. And that's why I said grit is ability to stay on an assignment, to persevere, to persist until the goal is achieved. But one of the things that you also need is discipline. if you're not disciplined, you decide to, okay, I have exams tomorrow, I have a test tomorrow, and you said I'm going to read 3 hours because I've not really read a lot, and you want to sit down and read, it requires discipline to be able to read. A footballer must be well disciplined to wake up 4 a.m. in the morning, no matter, and to go and train, because that's where grit is developed. Okay, all right. Whatever you do, there's that sacrificial part of whatever you do that you need to keep doing consistently, and you need no other thing than to be well disciplined. If you want to, gritty people are very selective of the people they move with. They don't just work with everybody. They are very selective. They don't roll with just everybody. They roll with people going their way. Okay. There's a story that I heard many years ago. A guy was flying out of Lagos and got to the airport, met an old friend of his, and they got talking. And they were engrossed in discussion. Pastor, how was life in those days? So they talked. And after hours, his friend just said, okay, friend, they've announced my flight. I'm going, we'll see again. And he said, oh, my flight. And by the time you will find out, his flight has gone 2 hours ago.
Whoa.
You know why? Because he was hanging out with the wrong people. These people he was hanging out weren't going his direction. If they were going his direction, they would have even prompted him.
Yeah.
Hanging out with the wrong crowd. And gritty people learn to hang out with people that will, because you need push, you need encouragement, you need pepping up, you need people that will boost you. And so that's where discipline is required. And
all right, we must go on the show, but a few things and then we'll go. Don't forget that. Okay, you have a question?
Yes, and it has to do with this grit.
Okay.
The tenacity, the push. All right, I'm bringing this mind into it. Yes, the journey into success is something we have to push. But what about somebody that has been pushing and pushing and pushing, is already old, and then he remembers the Bible says the poor will always be in your midst? In what way? In what category? We're gonna put somebody who is putting everything, the grit and everything, but nothing seems to come out. And then he remembers the quote that the poor will always be in our midst. What do you think about that?
The first thing I'll say is that grit is only applicable where grace is.
Whoa.
Grit is only applicable where grace is.
That one enters.
So first and foremost, grace has to be established before you can be gritty.
Okay.
No matter how gritty you are, if grace is not there, it doesn't matter. And like I also said, because someone might say, what about those who don't know God? What about China and all that? So it's grace. It's grace. Like I said earlier, grace does not mean it's only for born again.
Exactly.
No.
Given to all.
No.
True.
Well, the only existential grace is given to everybody.
Yeah.
But they don't have the salvation grace. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first grace, they don't have that. The certificate, they don't have. But they have existential grace because it's still God that works in everybody.
Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
He sends
It's
sun
just
to both evil and
He's the
good.
one.
He sends rain to both the righteous and the
Yeah,
unrighteous.
yes.
Yes.
So it's still God. So whether they know it or not, it is still God. But the truth is that no matter who you are, that you're born again or you're not born again, you're Christian, you're Muslim, whatever you are, grace and grit can only be effective where there's grit.
End of discussion.
Okay,
All right.
so and that's why I said grace is knowing what you're called to do. And so maybe the person you spoke about is exerting effort in the wrong direction. They say no matter how much you run, as long as you're running on the wrong direction, you will never get to your destination.
Definitely. Can you give us, as we close on the show, can you give us biblical examples of the manifestation of grace?
I'll give you, and one is Paul, and I share with us in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 10, and we also have David, which we spoke about, we have Solomon, which we spoke about, and then we have here, the prostitute, okay? She got grace, and then her effort, her work also earned her that salvation, or that favor before God. We also spoke about Daniel. We said Daniel was, even though Daniel had grace, but we saw that he deliberately, because you see, when the chamberlain or the kings, whatever, who was given the charge to take care of them, Daniel said, no, don't worry, we're going to be fine, we'll take this. And they sat down, they became very studious, they read. The Bible says Daniel became wiser in all things, in science, in philosophy, in everything, because he was a studious person. So Daniel was also an example. That's grit at work, persistency, and not giving up until he gets what he wants. So that's a very good example. And I think also, if you look at the life of Jabez, is also an example of someone who's gritty. He didn't give up, even though despite the challenge. You know, that Jabez made a lot of effort and he failed, but he persisted. He kept on moving on. He kept on forging ahead, and ultimately he got what he wanted.
Thank God that you said, Jared. Where is the place of does naming a child, does it play any role in grace or grit?
Well, I'm not an authority in that, so I wouldn't know. But I know that even biblically, names are very important. Okay, and because the Bible says whatever he calls them, that's what they are. So I think also I want to believe that whatever you name your child is important. And also there's this if you read the Jewish phenomenon, there's this concept, this ideology about the Jews. When you meet a Jewish mother going on the road and you ask for her sons and say, how are your sons? You say, oh, the doctor is doing fine and the engineer is doing fine, even though they are kids. You know, from the cradle, in the Jewish community, they put some very things into, you know, kids grow up with what we put in their hands. So they're already calling these kids doctor, the engineers. So you see, that's the ideology they put into them. But unfortunately, here, what do we call ourselves? And you see, we still friends. We are not.
And even talking about Loribuku, as you speak today, Loribuku is trending. It's trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
All right, as we close, finally, there's in your kicker, you said Grace and Grit, that's the headline, that's the title of the book. But then the kicker is the dynamic duo, catalyst for unstoppable success. Towards the last part of your book, you talked about the processes of unstoppable success. Can you take us through that? You said step into unstoppable. You said discover your why, set clear goals, develop a growth mindset, stay connected, embrace risk. Can you take us through all of that?
Okay, somehow we've said that in passing. You know, we said develop your why, mean find your purpose. Okay, and that's, like I said, you can't be gritty without grace, if you are not graceful. You can't be gritty if you are not graceful. I think that's just the caption we should just give it. So you must be graceful. You must be somebody who God has given grace to, has given liberty, and like we said, grace is your purpose. Your purpose is also a seed that has been put into you. So once you develop your why, okay, and your why will bat a passion in you, because part of grit is that you need perseverance and passion. Your why will bat a passion in you. Okay, then you set your goals, because you must continue. A gritty person will always set a goal. Because if you're not setting a goal, you can't play football without a goalpost.
True.
You can't run a race without an end, the beginning and the end. Line, so you must know where you are going, because that's what will keep encouraging you. You don't embark on a journey without knowing your destination. And that's why, as a human being, the first thing, you must know why you're here. And we all must understand that. So find out why you're here, and then you set your vision, your goal. You said, then we also talk about have a growth mindset. Mean that keep reading consistently. Don't give up. Keep on your skill, keep learning in your field. Be in your field of assignment and improve every day. Learn something new in whatever you are doing, and that helps you to move forward. You know, it's like, you know, this is what learning and information in your field does. It's like oiling or putting grease in the boil joints. Yeah. You know how great oil allows two metals to move without friction?
Yes.
That's what it does. So the knowledge you acquire consistently, okay, makes the journey less difficult, less taxful. My friend who rode from London to Lagos some 2 years back, Igu, he said, before he embarked on that journey, he spent 2 years preparing.
Wow.
2 years, yeah. Wow. He spent 2 years preparing. He studied everywhere he passed. And he knew he was going to pass the place where there are live lion there. So he knew when to pass and when not to pass. And just like he said, do you know he encountered the lion on the way? Oh yeah, at late in the evening. Late in the evening. It was dark already. And he said, part of what he did, he studied the speed of the lion and the speed of his bike. He said, but in his study, he realized that lion will catch up with his bike.
Definitely.
And you can't even bend. That will take it. So he understood everything. This is part of what made him very successful. So when he encountered a problem, he was able to surmount it.
Because he had
Because
prepared
he
for
had
it.
prepared. Knowledge has given him preparation ahead. So that's why knowledge is key. Keep owning your skill, and then you'll just keep praising God and giving him.
All right, I want to go on the show. Where can we find this book to get?
Currently it's on Amazon and on some other platforms, global platforms. But it's going to be, because it's not completely out yet. But in a couple of weeks, it's going to hit the bookstores. It's going to be on Roving Heights, and I think there's another bookshop on the island. It's going to be there. Roving Heights in Abuja and here, and it's also can order straight from me.
We just want to thank you. Who is Tunde Ebidero?
Wow. Big question. Well, Tunde Ebidero is a man that also understands that he has grace and is trying to get gritty so that he can achieve his aim at the end of the day. But I'm a businessman. But I'm a businessman. I'm married. I've got kids, and God is helping me.
Oh, thank you. Let's bring back Mrs. Ebidero. We need her to suggest a closing song. What song would this be? Drum rolls. We need to suggest another song. You can any of the mics, please.
Can you
Just pick up anyone. I have one on.
Can you raise the mic?
Okay.
Exactly.
I hope I'm not being disloyal. I will love a Lacrae song. I don't know.
But if you don't have it,
You don't have it, then
if you don't have it,
Lacrae song, church clothes. Is it 3? Any of the ones in church clothes 3?
do we have
Do
it?
you have any? Okay, what list do we have?
Okay, maybe we'll look for a song by Ella Crystal, but I don't know which. Can we pick up? The first song that we did was who?
Or Ojoro?
Ojo. Now we're doing a foreign. Okay.
Or can we do Mercy Chinwo? There's this song my husband likes also. It's a Calabar song. Boy Come
Okay.
by Mercy Chinwo. Can we do that?
Yeah. What's the title of that?
Boy Come,
Okay.
Mercy Chinwo.
Okay. I think we'll do that. That will close the show.
Okay.
I want to thank you. Thank you so very much for coming through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your children are here. There is. I just must thank you. I mean, you
Right.
stay behind. What's wrong with Dari?
Dari.
It's Dari. So, I mean, the very best for you guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you. You guys are doing great work. Thank you.
We'll end with this. You probably want to. Let me have you. How does it feel? I mean, you've read your daddy's book.
Yeah, I've looked over it.
Looked over.
He actually
read it.
designs the cover. He's
Oh, you're the one that designed the cover.
He designed the graphics in that.
Yes,
Even the
I
first
remember
book,
the
all my
one.
books, he's the one
Yeah.
designing the
Yeah.
cover.
Business as a ministry.
And I missed your name because there's.
He's there. His name is there.
Yeah.
Divine.
Aha.
Ebidero.
Man, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Thank you very much.
So how does it make you feel? Now the book that
Um,
you designed is on radio. Yeah.
it feels like a collaboration. Honestly.
Collaboration,
Because most of the time he has a book idea, he'll come up to me because I can see if as he's writing, he's taking out the book cover. So he'll be like, Divine, I had this idea, and I want to help me translate it and something else.
You know what just played in my head? There's this advert of a carpenter
And his son.
and the son
Lipton. Is Lipton.
Lipton.
Yes.
That's exactly what you just played in my
Yes.
head. You know, the father was always telling the kid, "You can't, Dad." So one day they were just over, tea bag. The mom just brought the tea bag, the tea, and he said, "Let me even look at what you're, all the time." And he saw the design. So wow, so I like that. So congratulations to the family. Thank you so very much. All right. So we'll end with this by Mercy Chinwo. It is Boycom. Thank you so very much. the listener. Do stay with us.